morning, everyone. My name is Carla, and you have reached my FlossTube channel, Carla Being Crafty, where I talk about mostly cross stitch, but also other crafts, a little bit of life thrown in. Today is my 29th FlossTube video. It is Sunday the 19th. Last week I said the wrong date, but today is the 19th, and so I just want to wish you guys all a big welcome. For those of you who are returning subscribers, thank you so much for coming back and spending this time with me. And if you're new, if you just happened upon my channel, then thank you so much for coming by. I really hope that you take the time to subscribe and that you visit me every week. This has been quite a week for me. Non-stitchy related week. After I did my video last Sunday, I decided to run out and run to the grocery store. And I opened my door, and on the floor there was a notice that, you know, it had been taped to my door, but it obviously fell off. And I'm so glad, because if somebody else had picked it up or thrown it away, or if it had blown away, I wouldn't have even known about this. But, so there was a notification on my door that they were going to be, the exterminator was going to be spraying inside the apartments in my building, on Thursday. So there's probably about 10 to 20 buildings in my apartment complex. There's, I think, 300 or so apartments. But, you know, my building is actually, the way that this apartment complex is set up is the studios are all over the carport, so there's only like the second level for the studio apartments, because they're all over the carports, which is nice. You don't have an underneath neighbor to worry about. But anyway, my building was on the schedule, and they were coming in Thursday, and I got this notification on Sunday afternoon. And so the prep for this is that you are supposed to take everything out of all of the cabinets in both the kitchen and the bathroom. You know, put it in the middle of a different room, cover it. Yeah, so huge amount of work. And one of the problems in a studio, excuse me, let me adjust myself here. My desk is so full of stuff. Everything is everywhere. It's driving me crazy. Anyway, the problem in the studio, there's no place to put anything. So I have a lot of like different like carts and like storagey little, you know, decorative-y storage things. You know, I truly try to maximize my space in this tiny place. I mean, I'm not a minimalist. I don't, you know, have one of those apartments that just, you know, has a couple pieces of furniture and that's it. I have a bunch of stuff. I mean, you can tell I'm a crafter, so crafters end up with a bunch of stuff, and I'm always so jealous when I see all of these people on FlossTube who have a little craft room, or they'll say, oh, you know, I only have a little craft closet, and it's like, at least you have a closet. I don't even have a closet in my apartment. I have one, you know, closed closet with a sliding door, and I don't even have like a broom closet or anything like that. Just, there's nothing. So anyway, I do have a lot of like storagey carts with different things on them, and I moved those all into the living space, so it became like a maze around here to try and walk around and feed the cat, etc. I stacked as much as I could on my little kitchen table, which, you know, is a card table. It's the size of a card table. And already had stuff on it. Like, that's my sewing area, so that's where I have my sewing machine and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it was just really crazy. I took off Wednesday and Thursday, Wednesday to do all this work, which really was difficult on my back, etc. I mean, I'm not good at that, like, extended physical work stuff and bending and pulling stuff out and moving stuff around. It just, you know, tweaked my body. And then Thursday, I took off, obviously, because the guy was coming, and on top of me having to be out of the apartment for a couple hours after he sprayed, I had to take my cat out of the apartment for a couple hours, which those of you who have cats know is not necessarily an easy thing to do, because you have to get them into a carrier, and yeah, so that was a whole big ordeal, and you know, got through it fine. Thursday we were able to come back into the apartment around 1:30. I was exhausted by that point. Took a little nap. I started moving all of like the furniture type stuff back. I still haven't put everything away, so I'm still surrounded by, you know, a big box of like my pantry items. I created my own pantry when I moved in. There's no pantry here. There's like one drawer in my kitchen and 3 little cabinets. So I made my own pantry. I did use this as an opportunity to kind of rearrange stuff and look at it as a way to, like, you know, have a fresh year, fresh organization, trying to keep a positive spin on something that was a huge pain. But I had like a little cart, a white IKEA cart thing that I had kind of like in front of this pantry that I created with a shelving unit. And I decided to move that over into my craft area. So if you can see this stuff, which is higher than it used to be, it's because I have it on this little cart now that's going to stay there and become more of craft storage instead of like the kitchen storage, because in my other apartment that I was in Long Beach a year and a half ago, there was no counter space at all. So I got that cart and used it as my counter. And I thought I would use it, you know, as a surface prep area in this kitchen too, but I never really have used it because it was kind of at the end of the kitchen. It just didn't end up being that. It ended up being a place to just dump junk. And so I thought it would be better served to move over to my craft area, which I know is kind of funny because in this apartment that means moving it like 5 feet, but now it's in a different room. And so I'm using that as a craft area, or craft extension of my craft desk, I guess. So I'm still kind of surrounded by stuff that I still need to start putting, you know, put stuff away today. I don't know if I'll get done, but it'll get done hopefully by the end of the week, and things will get a little bit more back to normal. So that was my crazy week. It did impact my stitching a little bit. I didn't stitch at all on Wednesday and Thursday. I just think I did a little bit, but I still got actually quite a bit of stitching done to show you. Let's see. Oh, I was just watching Jules, the Moonshine Craft cast right before I came on this morning when I was getting dressed and stuff. And so this is for you, Jules, the thing that you were talking about, the hat. So the cookie is called a Hamantaschen, and the whole thing about it is the 3 corners, because Hamantaschen, I believe, means Haman's hat in the story of Esther, which is the story of Purim. Esther the queen defeated Haman the bad guy, and Haman wore a tri-corner hat. And so at Purim time, we make these cookies that are like, you know, you take a circle, you fill the filling, and then you fold it up into like a triangle, and you can see the filling in the middle. If you ever have had Hamantaschen, they're delicious. They can be filled with all kinds of different fruit fillings, and poppy seeds is very traditional. So I like the poppy seed ones. I like the prune ones, actually. Those are really good. And then apricot is really good, and raspberry is really good. So those are Hamantaschen. So I think the hat you're making has like a tri-corner thing at the top. I'm not sure what the words at the top of that paper were, except for, I don't know what it meant. But it has to do with Haman and Haman's hat, which was a tri-corner hat. Yeah, so that was for Jules. For everybody else, if that didn't make any sense, go watch her video, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's see. Oh, other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the stitching and stuff, I don't know what happened, and anybody else who does FlossTube, you know, if this happened to you or you know why, let me know. So anyway, I did my video last week, and I've told you guys before that the comments on my videos are really important to me. They're just a bright spot in my week, every week, getting comments from people and answering them back and everything, and it's just something that I really enjoy. That's a part of this whole FlossTube thing that really, that I like. So I did my video last week, and you know, I check it throughout the day and then the next morning and stuff, and I was getting a lot of views, and I had no comments. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, okay, well, maybe it's the beginning of the year and people don't comment. But it was really weird. I kept checking, and it's like, this is weird. weird. Why am I not getting any comments on my video? Does everybody not like me all of a sudden? I mean, I didn't get it. So then, like late in the afternoon on Monday, I decided to go back onto the studio, which I sometimes answer comments through the studio just because they're all in one place. So there was a ton of comments that were being held for review, which has never happened before. And they were people who normally comment. Like I've had people held for review, people from other countries occasionally have been held for review, and then after I click and accept them a couple times, then they don't get held anymore. I don't know what happened. There was a ton that were held for review, so I clicked them all and accepted them all and everything, and you know, and it seems to be normal now, but I'm still getting a few held for review. That's never happened before, and I don't understand if that's something that happened just because it's the beginning of the year. I don't know. Anybody who knows about that and how YouTube works, let me know, because it was very confusing, and I kept feeling like I'm gonna miss people's comments and, you know, not respond, you know, the way I normally do because of that. So if that happens, if you don't hear back from me or you don't at least get a heart on your comment, then yeah, then I never saw it, because I do put, I answer almost everything, and if I don't answer, I do put a heart on it. So anyway, it was just really weird, and it was, I don't want to say upsetting because that's taking it a little bit too far, but it was just very weird at the beginning of the week because I was like looking forward to the comments and then I didn't get them, but I really did. So anyway, okay, so let's get into the stitchy type stuff to show you. I kind of had a new start and a new finish yesterday. I showed you these little hoop things that I got from Joann's, and I think I said Etsy when I was showing them, but they were from Joann's. You can also get them on Amazon. I've seen them. These teeny tiny hoops, and I decided I wanted to try doing something in this. So they come with a piece of 14 count Aida, and they come with these two little silly patterns that I had no interest in doing. And but the Aida, the little patterns were like 15 stitches, you know, wide, and I figured if I used a bigger or smaller count fabric that I could do something and I could have at least 30 stitches, you know, square. So I used a 28, I did 1/1, and I used this book that I showed you guys that I got from eBay for like $2 or $3. And I found a little pattern. There's a ton of little patterns in here, so if this is something that I decide I want to do a lot of, this book is going to be a great resource because there's flowers and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I picked this little cat pattern, and I made those little cats yesterday, and I just think they came out adorable. I did them, this is a 28 count, obviously 1/1. And to give you an idea of how, you know, how big that is, it's tiny. But yeah, the stitches were so tiny actually that the outline, the back stitch, I couldn't do with regular floss. So I actually pulled out my, was it Gutterman's? What is it, Gutterman's? Sewing thread that I use for my machine. And it's the same company that makes Sulky, so I figured that their thread would be good for this, and I just pulled out a thread, and I actually did the back stitching with thread instead of floss. So I am really, really happy with how this turned out. It's just so cute. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it yet. I can make it into some kind of a pendant. I was talking about making earrings with these, and I still have 3 more hoops. I don't want these as earrings. I think I would make flower as earrings or something. So I might do that also. But there's so many things I could do with this. I don't know exactly what. So it's the, oops. It's the hoop. And then there's a little wooden disc that you put around it and then tighten it up. So obviously you don't work on that because it's solid. And then there's a bigger disc that you put on the back, and I'm assuming you just glue it. so it makes like a solid thing, and your stitches are locked inside. So I just still need to glue that. What was I gonna say? I lost my train, guys. But anyway, so yeah, I did this yesterday. It took a long time. It took pretty much all day of stitching on and on to do this little 30 by 30, just because stitches are so tiny. But I actually really enjoyed it. It was pretty like cool to do, and I just think it looks really great in there. So that was kind of like my little start and finish. And again, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it, but it could be like a keychain, or I was thinking I could make it into a scissor fob. That's the other thing. That would be really cool. So let me know what you think about that, because again, with this idea of maybe having an Etsy shop, would that kind of thing, do you think sell? Would people be interested in buying stitching that was already completed like that on something tiny like that? Because that might be something that might be fun to not mass produce, obviously, because they take a while, but to put those, to make those and put those in the shop too. Okay, so whips. I realized last week I talked about the Village Bookstore, and I talked about the huge frame, but I never showed you guys the stitching. And I said, oh, there was a story about it, and then I never said the story. So the thing about it is, when I got the frame, I decided to change fabrics. So I started the Village Bookstore on a 20 count Aida Easy Count or Easy Guide. I never remember what those called, but the ones with the gray lines. And I did, on the 1st and the 2nd of January, I did 1,250 stitches, tent stitches. But I was having trouble, as you know, I was having trouble just dealing with the stitching because it just didn't fit right, and so I was having difficulty. So I got the giant frame, and when I got the giant frame, I decided to go ahead and switch, because I had bought both fabrics originally. I bought a 20 count Aida Easy Guide, and I also got the 25 count even weave, which is what people, typically stitch HAEDs on, although you don't have to. But I went ahead and decided to change, because I really wasn't totally happy with the way the tent stitches were looking on the 20 count. And that was one thing. And one of my issues with using the Aida instead of using an even weave was that the table frame that I have for my smaller HAEDs, I'm not able to really turn it over very easily. So I really needed to use like a pin stitch to end so that I could do it from the front. And I couldn't really figure out how to do a hidden pin stitch on the even weave. And so, yeah, so that helped make my decision on using the Aida. But I decided, but when I got the big frame, I can turn it. So I'm able to like run my threads under on the back. And so I decided to go ahead and switch fabric, and use the 25 count. So of course I was starting over again. So in the 2 weeks that I've been stitching on this, the couple sessions, because I've just done it like on the weekends, I back up, I finished my 1250, and then I went a little bit further and did like another almost 50. So this is where I am on it. And yeah, so I mean, it doesn't look exciting yet. It's mostly black. There's actually quite a bit of confetti when you get into those tiny blue areas. Oh, this thing is so huge. That was the book. I'm telling you, I'm just surrounded. And that is the Village Bookstore by Randal Spangler. So basically what I've worked on is just this teeny tiny little bit of a corner up here. Like that much. So yeah. But I mean, so far the ridiculously huge frame is working. I still need to try stitching on it sitting in my chair instead of sitting on my day bed. Because with the day bed, I am still not able to get kind of close enough, and I'm having to bend over, and that does hurt my back after a while. But I'm thinking maybe with my chair, because the chair is, you know, on rollers, that I could like get it a little bit closer to my body and be able to stitch, you know, with my back supported. So I have to try that. That won't be as comfortable as sitting on the day bed in some ways, but more comfortable in other ways. So we'll see. But yeah, so I did work on that, and I'm really liking the 10 stitches on the 25 count better than I did on the 20 count. Yeah, so, and I'm not having, I was afraid that I would be having trouble seeing it. But that was another point I actually kind of wanted to talk to you guys about, especially if you're a new stitcher. So I just started really stitching less than a year ago in about March. We're closing in on a year, but when I first started, obviously I started with a reelless kit, which kits usually come on 14 count fabric, and I had done some stuff, you know, so I did stuff on 14 count Aida and 16 count Aida, and then when I started my first HAED, which was Lavender Roses, which I'm going to show you in a second because I did work on that last week, I did that on 18 count, and it seemed so tiny, and I was like, oh my god, how does anybody work on anything other than that? And I was just on the Aida for like months, and then I think over the summer is when I finally tried even weave, and I did like a 28 count, or it was either 28 or 32. And I was able to do that. It was like weird at first, and you know, now I'm working on stuff on even weave all the time. And I am doing this HAED on 25 count even weave 1/1, and I did this little thing yesterday on 28 count 1/1, and I'm not having any trouble doing it. And I would have had trouble doing it when I first started, because each time, you know, you go into another count, you're like, how does anybody see that? And then you work on it, and it isn't as difficult as you thought. So it's all kind of relative, you know. It's like you start working on something, and you know, it seems like, ooh, this is like as low as I can get. Now obviously eyesight and, you know, and manual dexterity, you know, comes in if you have arthritis, if you have older eyes. I mean, I can't see even to work on 14 count if I don't have magnifying glasses on. You know, and yeah, so, but I can't see to read either without magnifying glasses on. So, you know, I do need that equipment, but it is totally doable and not, you know, a strain. Actually, yesterday working on this tiny thing, the hardest part for me was not seeing. It was the fact that I was working on this tiny little square fabric and holding it. I was holding it in my hands. My hand was hurting holding that fabric. It was really difficult to hold that tiny piece of fabric, from like arthritis wise. So I just think it's really interesting that, you know, as you progress in your stitching, and I'm sure anybody who's been stitching a while is like going, yeah, Carla, we know this. But anybody who is newer to stitching and is thinking like, I don't know how anybody's stitching on those smaller count fabrics or higher count fabrics, smaller stitch, you'll get there if you want to. Now, there's nothing, 100% nothing wrong with stitching on 14 count Aida, or even my mom stitches on 11 count Aida or 10 count Aida, and that is perfectly fine, and she does nice things with that. And you know, hey, you could do a HAED on 10 count Aida if you can find a big enough piece, and make it into a blanket. I mean, yeah, so there's no rules, as everyone says, there's no rules in cross stitching. But if going to the higher count is something that you want to do and you're hesitant to do, just try it. Try it on something small, and you know, don't try it on the piece that means everything to you, but try it on something small, and you'll find out that as soon as you get used to it, it's not that hard. So yeah. Oh, the other thing, sorry, I made notes, and it's like, I knew there's stuff I want to talk to you about. The other thing that I found interesting about working on this HAED on this stand is that for this particular piece only, I started stitching two-handed, and I don't think it's like making me any faster, honestly, because I'm just not fast on HAEDs. It's like, there's too much like you changing needles and changing, you know, and adding strands and, you know, and then I get distracted and I'm watching TV and I'm sitting there staring at the TV for a couple minutes and it's like, oh yeah, I'm stitching. So I don't think that it makes me any faster, but I find it interesting that I'm able to stitch two-handed. And in the sections where it is, like, there's been sections where there was maybe 2 rows of just black. Those can go faster because I'm stitching two-handed. So I think that's kind of cool. It's not something that I think is going to happen with everything, but on this piece at least I'm able to do that. So I think that's kind of fun. Okay, I think that's everything that I wanted to tell you. Okay, so now I can get back to the other whips besides the Village Bookstore. So as I said, I did do a little bit on lavender roses yesterday, or not yesterday, last week. This is the first HAED full coverage that I started, quick stitch, which again, quick stitch just means that it's a smaller pattern, not that it is any less intense of confetti, etc. So I did about that much. And this is going to be so pretty when it's done, and I do need to work on it a little bit more. Just because I really want to get it going. And then, you know, when I'm done with this one, there's a companion piece called Tuxedo Eyes. So that's going to probably be the one that I'll start to replace this one. And then the other quick stitch HAED I have is Nadia Tate Fairy. And I have like 4 or 5 patterns. So when that one's done, you know, another one will take its place. I worked on the Suffrage Act. By the Little House Needleworks. And this is in a SAL with Stitching with Sisterlies and Aaron T. Martini Stitcher and Michelle Bundy Stitchy and a bunch of other people. And I didn't do very much. I did a little bit on the lettering, but that's it. But I do really enjoy working on this. And it's fun posting on hashtags and seeing what everyone else is doing. So that's what I really like about the SALs is going and looking and seeing what everybody else is posting. I worked a little bit on Star Trek. So I was able to finish Mr. Spock. And then, you know, work a little bit more on the other guys. And I started with the letters down here. This is going to say the original series. So, as you guys can tell, probably by all of the different patterns I show you, I don't think I have like a style. I think my stitching style is pretty eclectic. It's really kind of all over the place. Which I guess is fine, right? This is Spring Fling. Did a little bit on this. I think I did this on Thursday when I was like really exhausted. So I started on the flowers. Oops, let me get this needle minder out of the way. I did that, the start of that flower. This is actually a 25 count fabric, which I'm not doing 1/1, so it's actually a really easy stitch because it is pretty big. So I worked on, when I had to leave the apartment with Baggy, I just went and I parked like in a park by us, ate a hamburger, And then I was gonna stitch on, I put the Mill Hill Pomegranate in my purse as my purse project, and I pulled that out to stitch on it, and I have not marked the back to find the center, and I was in the car, didn't have a pencil, didn't have straight edge. So I had also brought my classic poo with me, and I did like one floss strand. I'm not going to show you because it's just filling in the balloon, and until I get some kind of like bigger like change, yeah, I'm not going to show you that. And then last night I worked a little bit on the March year celebrations by Hands On Design. So actually I got quite a bit done on him last night. So that is my whips for the week. So yeah, I touched quite a few things. Didn't stitch on Wednesday at all. I was just so exhausted. My back still hurts, to be quite honest. So I'm going to take it easy today after I get done with the video and upload it and everything. Going to put some stuff away and stitch and, you know, go back and forth. Okay. So other than that, stitchy-wise, I talked to you a little bit last week about starting to kind of like have ideas using resin. Now I haven't been able to do anything beyond last week because of everything that was going on here. I might do that a little bit today. I might try and put some stuff together. The only thing about resin and everything that I read is that it's not really great to work on it when it's cold. It doesn't cure as well. And it is a little bit chilly in my apartment. I don't turn on the heat. I don't like canned heat. And it doesn't get that cold in here. And, you know, I can put on a sweater and put on socks. But for the resin, I don't know if it'll cure right. I might try it anyway because I need to start doing like a layering system and figure out how to do that along with, you know, going to work, etc. But the original pieces that I made, which are not great, but I'm going to show you because they're just kind of like prototypes. The thing that I think is going to turn out the best, that is going to work really well for an Etsy shop or for stitchers, is this idea of embedding orts in the resin. And I made this piece, and I'm hoping you're going to be able to see it. I just think it looks so cool, and I think it would make a really awesome needle minder. And then, so I want to make more of this type of thing. And I also got the coaster size molds, and I want to make coasters with, you know, like stitchy related things in them. So I have an idea for like the orts, and then I don't know, I just think this looks really neat. You guys tell me what you think. Yeah, I think it looks really cool. But I'm gonna do it a little bit more elaborate, maybe with a little glitter behind it and everything. I made these earrings. I showed them on Instagram. They didn't turn out great, but you know, they turned out. So, come on. I put a little bit of caviar beads in them. This is caviar beads too, but I did learn that I need to do it layered because they all went to the front. So yeah, I have to do it in layers, and this one I think came out really pretty, and this I think would make a good needle minder as well. This little perfume bottle. So yeah, I have some ideas for different this is caviar beads, for different needle minder things that are either just pretty or stitchy related or whatever. Needles and pins maybe embedded. So yeah, so that's the resin stuff. As I said, I have this little box full of, you know, my little first attempts. This one was like, I tried to do the orts too, and I put like way too much, and it just looks terrible. And it's all like I put so much it didn't fit. But I like the idea a lot, and so that is something that I'm gonna try. I did these little drops. These are supposed to be earrings too, and one of them turned out really good and the other one didn't. So anyway, and then I have like a little butterfly shape. So I think some of these would make really good needle minders, especially if they were, you know, more stitchy related. So that is my plan for that, you know, and we'll see. And like I said, coasters I think would be cool. I have ideas maybe for like scissor holders or even orc catchers. So yeah, I have different things brewing in my head. You guys know how it is. If you're like a crafty, creative type person, then you get an idea and it's like, woo, all kinds of stuff, you know, starts brewing. So I might work on that a little bit today and see how that goes. Other than that, tomorrow is the 20th, so I'm going to start my tree of butterflies tomorrow, so I'll have that to show you next week. I don't know how much I'm going to get done on it. You know, it's going to just go into my rotation. It's not going to be like a focus piece or anything right now. It's just something I wanted to start tomorrow because it's the 20th and because it's Tuba Shvat. And, you know, the New Year for trees. And I know that Erin and then Jen Stitching in the Bluegrass, they're going to do and a forest grew on Arbor Day. They're going to start that. So I definitely will stitch on my tree to, you know, kind of stitch along with them, even though it's not the same thing, on Arbor Day. And other than that, it'll just, you know, I'll stitch on it when I feel like it, like I do everything else. So I think that is about it for today. I hope you guys are having a great week, great weekend, and that you have lots of fun plans for next week. I hope that the New Year's going well for you. Like I said, last week was kind of a pain, but I'm looking at it as I had an opportunity to reorganize and kind of do a little bit of winter cleaning. And, you know, so that I have a fresh start for the new year. Once I get everything put away, I have a fresh start for the new year. So yeah, I'm trying to have that good spin. But anyway, I hope you guys, as I said, have a great stitchy week. Until I see you next week, please remember to be content, be kind, and be crafty. This is Carla. Bye, everybody.